Hello and welcome back. So in the last lesson, we learned about what it is that Gatsby does at a high level. Now in this lesson, let's actually take a look at what we're going to build. So what you'll end up building is just this basic blog website in this lesson. There's not that much styling to it because what I'm trying to show you is just the base concepts in Gatsby in order to get you up and running. Now, how you end up actually styling your blog or adding features to your blog is entirely up to you and definitely part of the coding challenge. Now, the blog itself is very simple. It simply has a list of all of our blog posts that you can navigate to and navigate back from. But the main thing to keep in mind here is that a lot of this content is actually dynamically generated inside of Gatsby. I'll show you what I mean. It's actually really interesting because Gatsby's style of setting up this blog is different from how you would typically write it in a React application because of a lot of the plugins and APIs inside of Gatsby in how it generates this static website. Now, we're also going to learn how to host our blog on Netlify. So Netlify is a company that offers this amazing backend service for you to host static websites. And the free tier of Netlify is extremely generous. It's way more than what we need for our blog, and it's incredibly easy. It actually gives us continuous deployment pretty much right out the gate with GitHub. And what that means is that we're able to push our code to GitHub, connect it to Netlify, and whenever we push code to that GitHub repo, Netlify will automatically redeploy and rebuild our website and update our URL with our latest code. So that's a really, really great service that we can leverage while using Gatsby because we're building static websites. So now that we know what we're building and where we're going to host it to, let's actually take a look at how to write this code. So let's go to our terminal. And what we're going to leverage is the Gatsby CLI. So CLI is a command line interface, which is a tool that we can use to quickly set up and build Gatsby projects, pretty much just like Create React App. In order to use it, we're going to leverage NPX, which, as you remember, is a new feature that comes with a later version of NPM that allows us to leverage packages without having to download them globally on our computer. So using NPX, I'm going to say Gatsby new and then Gatsby blog. So what this does is it will initialize and clone down using the Gatsby starter, a new Gatsby project for me. Now there's actually a lot of other starter projects you're able to leverage. And all you would do is after saying Gatsby blog or whatever name you want for your Gatsby project, you say space, and then you link the new starter that you want to actually leverage. And Gatsby provides all these starters depending on what kind of website you're looking to build. In fact, there's even a Gatsby blog starter that Dan Abramov, the creator of Redux and a very, very prominent member of the React core team, uses to create his new blog over Reacted. Now, you can totally take a look at this afterwards, but let's just get started first to understand all of the nuances in using Gatsby. So once we've actually created our new Gatsby blog repo, let's cd into it. And let's just open up the code and see what we have. Now, you'll see right away that our folder structure comes with these different files here. Inside of the source folder, we have something that we might be used to seeing with our React projects, which is a components folder. We have an images folder that holds some images, and we have these pages folders. Now, we're going to talk about the pages folder, but first, let's just take a look at these 4 files we have here. The Gatsby browser.js, the Gatsby config.js, Gatsby node.js, and Gatsby SSR. So, you can actually get server-side rendering with Gatsby if you follow some of the instructions with the Gatsby SSR API doc. Now, we're not actually going to do that in this course, but it's nice to know that you can achieve it with Gatsby. So if you're curious to see how to implement it after this course, you can definitely take a look at these docs. Gatsby node we're going to use in order to build out some of the more server required things that we will definitely explore in this course. So for now, just understand that this is where we end up writing some of our node related code. Now, the Gatsby config is actually the main file that we're going to focus on inside of this lesson at the very least. The Gatsby config holds a lot of the configuration options that we need in order for Gatsby to know what to do. Now, this site metadata is actually data that we can pull into our components using GraphQL inside of our Gatsby project. So if we wanted access to a title, this description, or the author in any way, we are able to leverage GraphQL and pull this site metadata right out of this Gatsby config object. These plugins are additional little libraries in Gatsby that allow you to do different things with different files. So we'll definitely explore this later, but you can see these as kind of additional helper libraries that transform the way that we're able to use Gatsby. And we'll take a better look at this in a later lesson. For now, just understand that this plugins array is where we would add any new plugins that we want for our Gatsby project. Now, Gatsby does have a lot of configuration and a lot of plugins. So you can definitely take some time and read a lot of the documentation that's available for many of the plugins that come by default with the starter. There's also going to be a lot of Gatsby concepts that we're going to cover. And honestly, you kind of have to just follow through with this lesson in order to understand at the end how all of these pieces come together. Because there's so many moving parts in order for us to end up building our blog, but Gatsby does try and make it as easy as possible. So as we build out some of these features, we're going to go back to a lot of these files to better understand what they're for. Right now, I just want to introduce you to the base files so that we understand what we're doing. Now, one of the big things is actually to look at package.json. And looking at the scripts, we see that it does provide us with quite a few. Now, the main one that we want is actually Gatsby develop, because Gatsby develop is what we use in order to serve up our website on localhost. So let's actually just test that first. So what we'll do is just run npm run develop. And what this will do is it will build up our new Gatsby application, and it'll actually give us two routes. The first one will be localhost 8000. That is going to host the actual website. The second URL they're going to give us is localhost 8000 /___ GraphQL. And this is going to be a GraphQL playground, but we'll look at that in the next lesson. In this lesson, let's just navigate to localhost 8000 in order to see what it is that we get. So by default, we get this Gatsby default page, and we see that there's some routing that's set up for us. So we load this little astronaut, and if we click go to page, it takes us to a different page at this route, and we can go back to our home page. Really simple, really quick. They've just set up something here for us to just build off of. So now that we see this, in the next lesson, let's take a look at how the code actually translates to what we see here. So I'll see you in the next lesson.